The father of an honor roll student who was killed revealed to the Tribune that he still struggles to deal with her death. Allegations fly that Save the Bays wants to topple the government, and it was revealed that Prime Minister Perry Christie was questioned by local authorities over Nygaard allegations. Find out about those stories and others. I'm your host, Krishna Virgil, and this is the Tribune's Top 5. The girl's father told the Tribune in an interview that he and his family could still not comprehend why her life was ended. The distraught father of Ms. Alana Beauchamp said earlier this week that he is still struggling to comprehend why she was killed on her way to school last week. Dallas Beauchamp wept openly as he described how his world was turned upside down when he received a call last Friday informing him of his eldest daughter's death. She was an honor roll student at the government high school. Ms. Alana died after being caught in the crossfire of young men throwing rocks while on a bus on Carmichael Road on her way to school at around 8 a.m. on Friday. A rock struck the 10th grade student on her head, and she died of her injuries in an ambulance on the way to school. She was caught in the middle of a fight in which she had no part. 8 men were taken into custody in connection with the killing, according to Police Assistant Commissioner Stephen Dean, who told the Tribune that 3 of the men will be charged with murder. But for the family that she left behind, talk about justice provides no comfort now. Somebody killed my daughter, Mr. Beauchamp cried over and over again to the Tribune. 3 men were remanded to prison on Monday after they were arraigned in connection with the girl's death. Former State Minister for Legal Affairs Damien Gomez said allegations about the relationship between Canadian fashion mogul Peter Nygaard and the Progressive Liberal Party are not a good thing for the country, adding that he hopes it spurs legislative reforms like the passing of campaign finance laws. In secret video recordings that are a part of a Save the Bays case before the Supreme Court, Mr. Nygaard alleged in conversations with Livingston Toogie Bullard and Whistler Bobo de Vilma that Prime Minister Perry Christie promised him a lease to build on government land. In one video, Mr. Nygaard alleges that he pissed away $5 million to the Progressive Liberal Party only to be disappointed by fake promises from the Prime Minister. Mr. Gomez said he doesn't know if this donation allegation is true. He said, quote, "I'm a member of the PLP. From where I stood in the election, I could not believe that they would have had those kinds of resources. I know I went to the bank and funded my own campaign. If I knew resources were available that I could have accessed, I would have done that," end quote. Mr. Gomez has been the most vocal member of the government when it comes to calling for campaign finance legislation, describing it as overdue. He said no when asked if he was aware of any efforts by the government to bring such laws to Parliament, despite Mr. Christie's statements of support for such laws after the last election. Asked about the perceptions arising from allegations that the PLP received $5 million from Mr. Nygaard, Mr. Gomez said, quote, "The purpose of campaign finance reform is to limit contributions to under $5,000 so no one can actually make such a large donation that one could expect that they are getting something back from it. And that's the whole point of it," end quote. Save the Bays has been accused of being nothing more than a political organization aiming to oust the sitting PLP government. This, according to Marathon MP Jerome Fitzgerald. Jerome Fitzgerald, the Marathon Member of Parliament, said Save the Bays, along with its detractors and numerous other local and international associates, have used the organization's banner to cover up its true intent, which he claims is to destabilize the government of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. He alleged the Free National Movement chairman, Michael Pintard, who was linked to the group, was paid well over $10,000 for his involvement. However, F&M leader Dr. Hubert Minnis defended Mr. Pintard. Dr. Minnis said, quote, "The chairman has admitted that he was like an independent citizen, employed by a particular agency for which he would have been receiving salaries like any other private citizen. That salary we would not know," end quote. The Marathon MP also accused the group of being involved in a hustle to entrap Canadian fashion mogul Peter Nygaard in a criminal plot. Fox Hill MP Fred Mitchell also chimed in on the situation on Thursday, claiming that some $8.25 million has been filtered through various organizations connected with STB locally and internationally from 2013 to 2015. Although he cannot say what the $8 million was for, Mr. Mitchell questioned whether STB is a genuine environmental organization or an attempt to subvert certain parliamentarians. According to affidavits released by Peter Nygaard, Canadian fashion mogul on Tuesday, convicted criminals who first alleged they were hired by him to murder opponents have changed their story. The affidavits purported to be sworn by Whistler Bobo de Vilma and Livingston Tougie Bullard in Manitoba, Canada on March 24, 2015, alleged the men were promised $3 million for their false testimony and paid $50,000 up front. In a press statement released by a spokesperson for Mr. Nygaard, along with affidavits, it was alleged that the men also made a secret recording of a payment meeting at the Hilton Hotel in downtown Nassau in the presence of Free National Movement Senator Michael Pintard on February 2015. According to the documents, the men claimed they met with Mr. Pintard several times in February 2015 to discuss Mr. Nygaard. The claims are a complete turnaround from their testimony in court documents filed in the Supreme Court on March 9th and appear to exonerate Mr. Nygaard from their initial claims. According to the statement, Mr. Nygaard did not pay de Vilma or Livingston for their sworn testimony. The press release also said Mr. Nygaard's attorneys have turned over evidence to Bahamian police and plan to formally ask local law enforcement to investigate his billionaire neighbor, Lifer Key resident Louis Bacon, and others involved in the alleged murder-for-hire plot against him. A Nygaard spokesperson said, quote, "The thrust of this thinly veiled publicity stunt disguised as a lawsuit focuses on a fictitious murder plot supposedly aimed at Fred Smith and Louis Bacon because of their opposition through Save the Bays to development plans at Nygaard Key. But the evidence presented in the complaint, particularly the video recordings of Mr. Nygaard and the two criminals, refute that Mr. Nygaard had anything to do with such a plot or any of the other crimes alleged in the complaint," end quote. Police Commissioner Alison Greenslade said Prime Minister Perry Christie and Deputy Prime Minister Philip Brave Davis were questioned in connection with an investigation over a murder-for-hire plot. Commissioner Greenslade told a press conference at police headquarters on Monday that he launched an official investigation into claims that Canadian fashion mogul Peter Nygaard orchestrated a murderous plot against his billionaire neighbor Louis Bacon and lawyer Fred Smith, his chief opponents in an ongoing campaign against development at Nygaard Key. Both Prime Minister Christie and Deputy Prime Minister Philip Brave Davis's names were mentioned in secret recordings between Mr. Nygaard, Livingston Tougie Bullard, and Whistler Bobo de Vilma. Bullard and de Vilma identified themselves as high-profile gang members in court documents and alleged that Mr. Nygaard gave them a hit list of people to murder or send a message to. Mr. Greenslade said the independent investigation will determine whether there is anything of a criminal nature that the Royal Bahamas Police Force should be pursuing, if there is any matter that originates of a criminal nature, and whether there is any capability in terms of anyone we have reason to speak to. Mr. Greenslade said he received no complaints from anyone in any of the affidavits who claimed their lives were threatened or any reports from anyone who had information of someone doing a wrong deed. He also said that as a result of the investigation, several persons could be arrested and charged or worse. The commissioner said the first he heard of the murder-for-hire plot was when he read the Tribune last Thursday. He said, quote, "I directed an investigation on Friday past. I have assigned an assistant commissioner, a superintendent, and one of my legal experts, along with a number of other supporting officers, to seek to determine if there is any veracity to what I read," Mr. Greenslade said. "I decided, based upon the fact that names were called in the newspaper and other places, to have the detectives go and see the Right Honorable Prime Minister and see the Honorable Deputy Prime Minister, certainly to see Mr. Keogh Smith, Reverend Dr. C.B. Moss, and any other people whose names were called in open source documents, to go and seek them, to seek the determination if there is any of a criminal nature that we as a police department should be pursuing." Want to get in on the discussion? Well, here's how you can. Just log on to our website at www.tribune242.com, like us on Facebook at the Tribune News Network, send us a tweet at Tribune242, or subscribe to our YouTube page, Tribune242.